Alright, I promised another game, and here we go. This time I'm up against Lord Duke 1, playing the always powerful Nin the Pain Artist versus Brago, King Eternal. I think on the spectrum of blue-white generals, this guy is near the top. I don't think he's as good as Grand Arbiter, mainly because he requires a little bit more support to do good things. But that said, when he does appear in combo with a couple of key cards, he can be absolutely dominating. I think the standouts are Muldrifter, Sun Titan, Solemn Simulacrum. There's a few others that are particularly amazing. I guess his big vulnerability is the fact that he requires you to connect for damage to a player in order to trigger the ability, which means that if your opponent has a way to block a flyer, like pretty much anything with 3 toughness that flies, they can just keep him at bay all day. And a lot of the other cards that you play with to support Brago don't work as well. But still, if you get a fast draw with him going first, you can often get a pretty dominant board position, especially if you draw lots of mana artifacts that you can continuously flicker after combat to double up your mana, which is obviously a very powerful thing. Looks like I think he's going first. I have a very keepable draw, not exceptional, probably about 50th percentile, and then I've got 4 land and a cheap counter. Notice I've got Cascade Bluffs in hand. This is a recent addition to the deck, as well as I think I may have added one other red mana producer. Yeah, I think Mystic Confluence, actually, I think I added as well. I just put in 2 more sources of red, and because I added the very first double red spell to the deck, which is the Chandra Torch of Defiance, which I have been quite happy with so far. I think it was an excellent swap over from the Flame Tongue Kavu. Just very similar effects, but the Chandra just a lot more top-end potential, and it's done lots of work in a bunch of games that I've played. All right, so he's going first. He does not have a Soul Ring or Mana Crypt, which is good, because Brago's a lot more dangerous, just like Grand Arbiter if they get too much mana quickly. I should be able to mana leak it before anything bad begins to happen. Reliquary Tower into Azorius Signet. So I see this play right here. I saw him keeping a single basic land and a Reliquary Tower and Azorius Signet. That's, to me, this signals that he only has 3 sources of mana total, so that Brago may not be coming out for a little while. Normally someone wouldn't play Reliquary Tower as their second land if they had other lands in their hand, at least in my experience. It's definitely an example where if you're playing live against people and you're watching their eyes and watching where they put cards in their hand and stuff when they draw, you can often tell if they've drawn land or not. Can't really do that online. Alright, Volcanic Island. Thirst for Knowledge. Not bad. Just going to chill here. Obviously I'm not going to play Nin, because I intend to mana leak Brago. But it'll depend a lot on what he does. Alright, so tapping Azorius Signet without playing a land, and he plays 3 mana into Palladium Mirror. 100% that thing is getting countered. I'm not really sure why he would use it, given that unless you're playing with a specific reason to have creatures that do this, this thing is just worse than Worn Power Stone, because it's so much more vulnerable to removal. But maybe he's got that too. Anyway, it's getting mana leaked no matter what. Feeling pretty good here, and sure enough, my read was correct. He does not have a fourth mana source. So even though I'd like to play the Coalition Relic here and get more mana into play because it'll allow me to play the Lotus into Dissipate, I really don't want him to get Brago out. So I'm just going to chill here, mainly because I have the replay of just casting Thirst for Knowledge if he does nothing. So he taps 3 mana. To me, this speaks of desperation here, pondering off of an Azorius Signet. I am quite glad I kept my mana untapped here, and you know, anyone who's watched my videos knows how much I am an advocate of containment. So containment often takes the form of casting a Dissipate on a Ponder on turn 4, because you believe that your opponent doesn't have any more land in hand. So he plays Lightning Graves, and I figure, alright, awesome, that still does nothing. And he's got Rogue's Passage, which he must have just drawn that turn, because he didn't play it last turn. So he kind of suckered me there. Kind of an interesting play, actually. I don't know if that was intentional. I may be giving him a bit too much credit for playing around the counter magic, but it was a neat play to play the Ponder that way and bait a counter spell and then have a land anyway, rather than just playing his general, which I think a lot of people would have done there. Mountain. Alright, I'm feeling a lot less secure all of a sudden, because I just lost the Dissipate thinking I was all smug and correct. And he had the 4th land anyway. But that's okay. I can play the Coalition Relic, and I'm just going to play Nin right now. He doesn't really have, even if he plays Brago, he doesn't really have a follow-up yet, and I may be able to Thirst for Knowledge into a counterspell to stop the things that Brago wants to flicker anyway, so it may not matter. There's another land. Alright, Brago coming down for sure. He gets suited up. Attack. He gets to flicker the Signet, and he gets the first nice Brago flicker target, the Ichor Wellspring. Pretty nice, just like an extra draw every single time you connect with your general. Thought Vessel. Alright, this is starting to get a little ugly. Doesn't have anything really devastating in play like Sun Titan yet, but this could get ugly quickly. I need to draw into some counter magic. I decided I'm just going to play Gilded Lotus and go for a big Nin activation. I could draw 4 at the end of his turn, provided that I have a window for that, but I decided that I'd rather do a much bigger activation given that I might be under a bigger time constraint in the future. Plus, if he gets something that's very disruptive to my board that can be flickered with Brago, something that bounces permanents and so on, I might not be in a situation where I can even use the Nin for much effect, because it'll be summoning sick over and over again. Venser, main step, I got sorcery speed. That's unfortunate. But I guess he gets to use it twice. It's just getting really ugly. Alright, I draw. Obviously I thirst in response. I'm going to throw away the Thought Vessel. And I've got Treachery and Spell Pierce. So that's really handy, because no matter where these Greaves go, I can either shut down Brago, or I can steal the thing that he's going to try to flicker with it. And I've got the Spell Pierce to force it through, potentially. Alright, 3 things. He draws a card, flickers, he bounces that thing over Nin. Can't say I completely agree with that, but I can see why you do it, because it does cut me off of 2 mana next turn. Yeah, it's probably the right play. I'm certainly not going to be activating Nin anytime soon under this kind of pressure. And then, inexplicably, he throws Lightning Greaves onto Venser. I have no idea why he would do that. Not only because, any number of target non-land permanents, so that prevents this thing from being targeted by Brago. He has to throw it back on here anyway, but his whole strategy is built around this creature. Why the hell would he give Shroud to a creature that's considerably less important? I'm more than happy to exploit his mistake, though. Thank you. I'll borrow your general. And I think in my position, a fair number of people would have played the Gilded Lotus here, figuring, oh, well, I just need to put more mana out anyway. But for all I know, he has a way of getting rid of the Treachery. And if he does, I want to be able to respond by blowing up his general in response. So I am not going to cast my Lotus. I'm going to make sure I have exactly 6 mana untapped, so that I can kill Brago if something happens to it, especially if he has a disenchant. Sure enough, Sakashima the Imposter, which will copy Venser and allow him to bounce something. And I guess he targets... I think he's targeting the Treachery there rather than his own guy, which is a little bit of a strange play. But either way, I am just going to, because of the Lightning Greaves, I'm going to just kill this guy in response. It's kind of funny that he's got 2 copies of a legendary creature and they both persist. Alright, so you blast Brago for 4. Boom. Alright, well, not too great, but I did get a Fabricate. That's quite handy. And he plays Pithing Needle. Arg, that's so brutal. Would have been interesting, actually. I think he should have played Pithing Needle first. Because if he plays Pithing Needle first, I probably shoot his Brago for 3 rather than 4. I mean, I have no reason to kill it. And if I shoot it for 3, then he can play his Sakashima and bounce the Treachery or the Brago back to his hand. Obviously, ideally, he would take the Brago, because taking Treachery doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Although I guess he can get Brago back and then put Greaves on it, so he doesn't have to replay it. But if he had played those in order, I gave him too much credit in the previous turn with the Ponder, because I think playing Pithing Needle here to shut down Nin and forcing my hand would have been an ideal play, because then he would have definitely gotten the Brago. And that little mistake could really, really matter. And he gets to hit me for 4 here and take me to 26. He's just moving the Greaves around. Whew. Future Sight. Alright, excellent. Well, when you can't draw cards with Nin, that's what this thing is in here for. The deck has numerous redundant card drawing effects for in the events of the general getting disabled or stolen or whatever, made so expensive that you can't continuously replay it. So I'm going to play that. Fabricate. This is pretty much a no-brainer. I'm going to get the Shackles. Because having an untapped Veldic and Shackles means that he can't really play his general. I can just steal it in response. I can also swipe one of these guys if he tries to flicker it. There's lots of cool things I can do, so I'm going to get the Shackles down. And I'm keeping 3 mana untapped here so that I have 2 mana to use the Shackles on and 1 mana potentially to spell pierce something that might cost 6. And there's certainly lots of nasty sorceries that cost 6 that I might want to stop. Just fetches a tap land. He casts a Metamorph. Alright, well, there's not really a lot I can do about that. He could bounce the Shackles, I guess, and make another copy of Venser, but of course one of them would die at that point, so that doesn't make a lot of sense. And I figure he's just going to take Veldic and Shackles so that he can fight the Shackle War. And sure enough, he does exactly that, which I agree with. And now he's going to steal Nin, even though Nin doesn't do shit for me because of Pithing Needle. So I'm more than happy for him to do that, which means I can now safely steal one of his guys, and he can't attack, which saves me 4 health. I'm going to untap and let it go again. Because again, I want this untapped so that I can grab Brago if need be. Alright, Merchant Scroll's really interesting, and he has no cards in hand. So a lot of different directions to go here. I gave some thought to just simply Merchant Scrolling into Cyclonic Rift, and planning to just rift his whole board. But the more I thought about that, the more I realized that most of his solutions to the board are quite cheap, and it doesn't really advance my board position all that much. We're kind of in parity here, and if I don't have the amnesia to follow up this Cyclonic Rift, he just plays the Pithing Needle quickly, he draws another card off the Wellspring, he replays the Metamorph for quite cheap, and he's got these 2 bouncing guys in his hand. So that's not going to work. And I could go get Mana Drain off of the Merchant Scroll to just hang out and wait for him to replay Brago, as we're kind of in a parity state here. I mean, because of this weird tug-of-war situation, he can sneak through damage here and there, but he's not going to get through for much. But I don't really consider getting Mana Drain advancing my game state all that much. And I figure if I trust the deck to deliver counterspells, I haven't really drawn very many yet, I've only drawn 2, that I think that if I go and put Future Sight into play, plus I've got a reshuffle effect here, and it's actually 2 reshuffle effects. If I put Future Sight out, I think I can probably pull far enough ahead that it won't matter. I'm going to play Future Sight. There's a land on top. That's one of the new lands as well, and an island, which is a little unfortunate. And I'm keeping 2 mana and Spell Pierce available again. Alright. So he notes his attack step. And he kept that thing tapped, holding my my Nin. I guess I could have grabbed the Sakashima in advance once he was inside of his attack step, but I elected not to do that. Turn it to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. It's kind of interesting. I'm just going to take the damage here. He says done. I don't grab his guy because I really just don't want the Shackles untapped anyway. There's no reason to steal his guy if I'm just going to untap it. Alright, come on, Future Sight. Nice. There's a Brainstorm, about one of the best cards you can ever see on top with Future Sight. He's going to cast it. And I see Rewind, Counterspell, and Expedition Map. And there's another land there, which is glorious. So I'm going to keep both of the counterspells, put Wasteland back on top since I can play that. And I'm going to just Merchant Scroll right now. No reason to Wasteland him. I'm not really concerned about his land very much. Just getting Mystical Tutor. And actually my reason for getting Mystical Tutor was, I'm sorry I didn't give you guys a chance to think about that, but my reason for getting Mystical Tutor was specifically to put this card on top of my deck. Because there's a boatload of nasty artifacts out there, including the one that shuts my general off, and the one that steals it, and Vandal Blast solves all those problems. And then, after getting Mystical Tutor, Vandal Blast just did me the favor of hopping to the top of the deck anyway. So, nothing to complain about there. I'm going to play that. And I'm going to play this thing too, so I don't have to discard. And with Rewind and Counterspell and Spell Pierce in hand, feeling pretty comfy. Unfortunately, I can't sack either of these during the end step. Cast Meddling Mage, and I'm just going to counterspell that. And again, I'm doing that to leave the 2 mana untapped so that he can't cast Brago post-combat. Because Brago post-combat hitting me would be disastrous. Both these guys would flicker, and he would bounce a bunch of my stuff, and I'd start getting way behind at 19 life. So we can't have that. I just have to take some damage, which is fine. Instep, I'm just going to grab a guy. Since I don't necessarily know if I'm going to be keeping the mana untapped anymore. Draw the Vandal Blast. Take 1 down to 12. And there's Forbid. Very timely as well. And that is quite a Vandal Blast right there. What's that? I get to draw a card off that, but that's still a 4 for 1. Smash. And it ends the Shackles Tug of War, which is great. Just plays Gilgate, he casts Preordain. I'm actually going to let that happen, even though I could forbid it off the top, because I don't have a follow-up. And he plays a Mana Vault, which you don't care about. And of course I'm not going to reshuffle Instep, because I'd love to get that Forbidden hand. With Nin Shackles out, I'm going to untap my Vault. Give him down to 12. Play Thran Dynamo. Got a Lapse on top. You've all seen this before. This is the academic future sight phase of the game. And I think he can see his own future. And he's just offering token resistance at this point. I can just lapse off the top, and he wisely packs it in. So I thought this was a pretty cool game. It was definitely touch and go at the beginning, getting pressured by double Venser and Brago himself when I didn't really have a lot going on. I didn't really feel like I was totally out of this game or terribly behind at any point, but it could have gone very, very badly. I think on that turn when he played the Pithing Needle in particular, if he had led with Pithing Needle, I think the game might have turned out quite different. And it's funny how just that single innocuous play could reverse the entire course of the game. If I don't kill his guy and draw 4, you notice he never casts Brago again. So if Brago were out this whole time, it would have really changed the fabric of the game quite a bit. And I would have drawn fewer cards off Nin. Anyway, it would have been different, but thought that was a cool game. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I think I've got at least a couple more in the pipeline. See you soon.